So being designers, we always already loved creating something. The more that we got into wine, the more we got passionate about from growing a grape, how you go to making a wine. Now, of course, that's all a nice dream. That's all a nice idea. But just starting with a winery would be a bit foolish. So we went back to school. The two of us went for 2 years, still in Belgium at that time. We went to study viticulture and winemaking. And we said, we are going to do this for 2 years. If after those 2 years we still like it, we might think about moving ahead. Now, the fact that I'm here today in the podcast, I think shows that indeed we liked it.
Welcome to this special Clubhouse session of the Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as members of the Italian wine community engage in fascinating conversations about contemporary wine topics. If you enjoyed the show, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. And remember to subscribe and rate the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your pods.
Hi everyone, this is Beatrice welcoming you to the Italian Wine Clubhouse Ambassadors Corner, one of the top-ranked shows on Italian Wine Podcast. Here, our ambassadors get the mic to interview their favorite producers with total freedom. And if you miss it live, no worries, it's recorded and dropped later on the Italian Wine Podcast. Today's guest host is Mauricio De Chiaro. As an Italian wine ambassador based in Brazil and in Alto Piemonte, Mauricio has recently visited more than 150 wineries in Italy and is actively promoting Italian wines in Brazil and for Brazilians around the globe, particularly highlighting lesser-known native grapes. Mauricio created the Wine Partners, a buyers club that empowers small, family-owned producers, allowing partners not only to buy direct, but also to have unique winemaking experiences. The Wine Partners has chapters in Miami, Orlando, New York, Lisbon, and Sao Paulo. Today he's gonna interview Anna De Baccar of IDivini winery in Piemonte. Maurizio, Anna, how are you doing, guys?
Great, Bea. And you?
I'm fine, thank you. Anna, how you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Happy to be here.
We are happy to have you here too. Mauricio, are you ready for our 3 ritual questions?
Yes, let's do it.
Perfect. How did you discover the wines of IDivini?
Wow, that's a very nice story. The first time I met Anna, we were in a wine-to-wine in Verona. And then she told me she had a winery in Piemonte, and I booked a visit to taste the wines, I'm very interested in wineries led by women, and her story, being a Belgian and deciding to be an entrepreneur in Italy, is really, really interesting. The wines are amazing, and she also focuses in autochthonous grapes and has a true respect for terroir, so a wine philosophy that I like to promote.
That's super fascinating. So tell us, why did you select Anna as your featured guest?
I think Anna is a perfect example of this new generation of women who are becoming very much protagonists in a mature industry. So women everywhere are taking their spaces and showing that they can do great wines. They have the capacity, they have the drive, they have the motivation, and they are showing great work. So she has a lot of attention to detail and passion, and it shows in every bottle.
To quote Beyonce, it is a word that is made for women. What are the learning objectives that we should expect from this interview?
Yes. So I think today is going to be a little different than usually, because in Italy, it's very common to have these families in the 10th generation, a lot of people who are prepared to take the legacy of the family after they inherit or they are working with their father or their grandfather, etc. But in this case, we have a completely different story. We have a Belgian couple led by Anna, who had a different career, fell in love with Piemonte's wines, and decided to follow their dreams, So it is a relatively new project, but this project is very successful because the wines are already showing they have great quality and character. It's not an easy job. Coming to a different country with a different culture and language, also a changing career, but they are doing amazing. So I think the learning objectives of today is to understand, learn, and about their story, the wines they make, this amazing story,
This sounds like a really nice plan to me, so it's time for me to mute myself now. I'm turning over the floor to you, Mauricio. Have a nice interview, guys.
Thanks, Bea. Thank you. So, Anna, I'm going to start by introducing you to the audience. So, Anna is from Belgium. We already said that. And she used to have a career in interior architecture. So, she came very often to Italy for work. And every time, every trip, they as a couple fell in love more and more with Piemonte. The landscapes, the culture, and especially the wines. In 2018, Anna and the husband Koen decided to take the leap and start their own winery, IDivini. So for Anna, winemaking is a very creative process. She approaches it with the mindset of a designer. Every wine has to start with an idea, a feeling, a story, and she even designed her own labels. Each label reflects the personality of the wine, the vineyard, and the atmosphere that they want to create and to bring in every bottle. So wine for Anna is craftsmanship, creativity, and creating an emotional connection with the people who drink their wines. Anna, welcome to Italian Wine Podcast.
Thank you, Maurizio. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Happy to have you here. So let's start by telling the audience the story of IDivini, where this crazy project started, when exactly you and Koen decided to move ahead and making your dream come true.
Well, do you have a couple of hours or no, just joking. So actually the official start of our story is in 2018. That's actually when we really bought the winery. But I think our journey really started much earlier. As you already introduced perfectly, as interior architects, we traveled quite a lot, quite often to Italy, and especially the north of Italy. And what do you do when you travel to the north of Italy? Of course, you take a bit of holiday, you take some time off, and you visit Piemonte. So there we really fell in love, not only with the culture, with the environment, but of course with the wines. So being designers, we always already loved creating something. And the more that we got into wine, the more we got passionate about how to make from growing a grape, how you go to making a wine. So we really got fascinated about creating something, but then for real, really making something. Now, of course, that's all a nice dream, that's all a nice idea, but just starting with a winery would be a bit foolish. So we went back to school. The two of us went for 2 years, still in Belgium at that time. We went to study viticulture and winemaking, and we said we are going to do this for 2 years. We're going to see if after those 2 years we still like it. And then if we still like it, we might think about moving ahead. Now, the fact that I'm here today in the podcast, I think shows that indeed we liked it still after the 2 years.
It is a good plan, right? Go one step at a time.
Yeah, indeed. And even that, to be honest, we had the 2 years. It prepared us. We learned a lot about it. Also in those 2 years, not only during the courses, but we also took the time to visit a lot of wineries, etc. But still, to be honest, at the end, you know nothing because you need to learn. It's like with every person who comes out of school, they need to start learning to do the job on the spot. So it's very important that you at least have the basic knowledge. And then I think the extra thing, what is important is that when you really start with the project, that you look for people who are going to help you and who are going to guide you and train you on the spot. So therefore, immediately we looked for our enologists to help us, let's say, from grape to wine, and also our agronomist who helps us from the plants until the grape. So everything, all the works that need to be done on the field. So those people were really key. Now, today, they are very helpful consultants, but in the beginning, they really took us by the hand. They showed us everything, and you need to be prepared to learn, of course, at that point.
Important to have a great team supporting you.
Yeah.
Why Isola d'Asti?
Well, of course, we loved Piemonte because of the enormous grape variety. I think that really triggered also our creativity. And I think Isola d'Asti is a very nice area to make Barbera, which we really loved. Between Asti and Alba, so you really are in the heart of Piemonte. Why Isola d'Asti? At the beginning, it was also because there was a project for sale. That's also something. Because we were looking for vineyards that are already into production. And what we found were a 10-acre land, mostly was already planted. Some we added vineyards later in the process. What we now have, we have some nice vineyards, some nice vines who are 50 years old, 60 years old. Of course, when you start in one generation, you can't achieve that, because if I would have to wait 60 years, then I'm going to be quite old. So that was important, that we found something with a basic building that we knew from the start that was going to be too small, because the former owner was actually more a grape producer. So he sold the grapes to other winemakers. So he didn't make a lot of wine himself. But we already had the basics. We had a building. We could start developing our wines, start studying our wines. And we had some very nice vineyards to start from. So I think that's all, the combination of everything is what brought us to Isola d'Asti.
And it's amazing how the universe conspires, right? When you have a plan, things start to fit in place, right? You find the place, and then you had the education, and you had the motivation, and then you had the team. It's amazing.
Yeah. When it all comes together and it starts taking shape and it becomes your own company, that's really something amazing to see. Yeah, it's true.
Very nice, very nice. So we are in the month of the International Women's Day. So tell us how hard or easy it was to be a woman entrepreneur in Italy.
It's been a really exciting journey, let's say, because of course we arrived already in Piemonte as foreigners, so it's already something. You need to learn about local culture, you need to learn a bit how things in Italy, like for example, doing a fast lunch break of 20 minutes, just forget about it. You just need to take some more time. So that's one part. And then of course, indeed, as being a woman, that also gives another dimension perhaps to it, because it's quite a technical agricultural environment, which is mostly still driven by men. And the fun thing about it, sometimes we really knew it. I really knew that I was going to do a physical job that I really also wanted to create. So I wanted to do that hands-on job, make my hands dirty. But Italian men can be very nice gentlemen. And in the beginning, they wouldn't let me lift anything. So if the barrels needed to be put in another place or something, no, we can do it. You don't have to do it. But in the end, I got a bit nervous about it. And I said, no, guys, I'm just going to do it.
My physical workout.
Yeah, but it is what you do, because I think if you really want to become a winemaker, the physical part is also part of it. If you do the skin maceration, you really have to work that wine. You really have to get your hands dirty, and you really have to work the tanks. And if you don't do that, you don't get feeling with the job. So it took quite a while to get that explained to the men in the winery. Let's be honest, sometimes it also comes in handy when something is really, really heavy. Then I let the men do it, I must say. I must admit that as well. I think also, what you said was women entering really the industry. And I think that's a very nice thing, because I think most women have a very refined nose, a very refined palate. So they have a feeling for wine. And I think we really complement each other. And that's not only in the wine industry, but I think also, especially in a technical environment, it's also nice to have different aspects, different views. And I think when men and women work together, you get interesting discussions, you get interesting views. So I think it's a good thing for the industry in general that young women get inspired by it and start doing this job, because it is also for women a very nice job.
Yeah, that's perfect. And by you showing the other women that this is possible, I think you inspire a lot of them out there,
Yeah, and sometimes things can be too heavy, but it's not at that point. It's just, guys, come and help me. I think but other levels, you might be more exact. I think, like, for example, if you need to measure something, I think we women perhaps are a bit more secure sometimes than men are. So everybody has their own angle, their own personality. So definitely, I think as a woman, you should not be afraid to take your place also in the wine industry.
Perfect. So you are in Isola d'Asti. How big is the winery? What kind of grapes you have? And by the way, I'm curious, why the name IDivini?
Yeah, let's start with that. So, as you know, we are a Belgian couple, and a last name as De Bakker, or my personal name Vermeer, is not that international, especially not in Italy. So we needed to look for something else. And we said, let's look at where we are with the winery. And we are in Isola d'Asti. Isola, if you would translate it to English, it's island. For us, it was also an island of wines, of vineyards, because we are surrounded by all those nice hills with the vineyards. So the first name for the winery was Isola Divini. so an island of wines. But that was a bit too long, and then we put it all together to IDivini. And then you get the small referral to the divinity of wine. Let's not take that too seriously, but that's a bit the joke within the name. So that's actually where the name came from, because I think territory is important as a winemaker. I think where you are located, changes everything about your wines. So to situate Isola d'Asti, we are actually in the middle between Asti and Alba. So that's the heart of Piemonte. And then our own reality, we have 10 acres of vineyards. And right now we produce 50 to 55 bottles per year, but still a lot of vines are quite young, so the production automatically will still increase in the coming years. And I also think that's a good thing, because we just recently started, so it has no use already to have that large production. So let it slowly increase together with us and our possibility to make more wines. And you also asked about the varieties, right? So the main focus for us are those typical autochthonous grapes from the area. And that means in our case, Barbera, Cortese, Nebbiolo, and the bit unknown but beautiful grape Freisa. So those are the most local grapes. And then on the other hand, we also have some international grapes, Pinot Nero, Sauvignon Blanc, and Merlot. I think those international grapes make it interesting, especially when we have the opportunity to combine them with the local grapes or see how they work in our environment.
I love Freisa, you know that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your winemaking philosophy.
I think within our winemaking philosophy, it goes back to who we are. And as I said before, what triggered us to come to Piemonte was the big diversity of grapes, because that gives you such an opportunity to be creative with making wines. And I think our philosophy really starts from asking questions. We come from abroad, we come from another environment. So I think perhaps a couple of people got some headaches with asking the why question, because I think at the beginning, what we really did was continuously asking questions. Why is it done like that? Why do we do that? Why? And also in the winemaking process, we really wanted to make a spumante, so a metodo classico, but we wanted to include that autochthonous grape to it. And in our case, for the white variety, we wanted to include Cortese as a grape. But then we got the answer, but you don't do that. You don't make a sparkling wine with a Cortese. And we went, why? Well, yeah, you don't do that. And then we said, okay, let's just try. Let's see. And then we started experimenting with the Cortese in a sparkling wine. We saw that indeed the Cortese 100% might be a bit too soft. You miss a bit of punch in there. And then we said, but hey, we got a nice Pinot Nero. Why shouldn't we make the combination? The Pinot Nero gives the punch to the wine, the Cortese, the floral aromas. Let's combine those two. And I think that's part of the DNA of our winery, that we ask questions, we try, we see, of course, guided by the enologists, guided by the team of experts. We make most of our wines within the DOCG, which also means that we respect the identity and the heritage of the wines, but that doesn't mean that we can't just look at where can we be a bit more creative, how can we make things a bit more exciting. Like, for example, we make a blend in the red wines of 4 different grapes, quite unique, 2 autochthonous grapes, the Barbera and the Freisa, and 2 international, the Pinot Nero and a bit of Merlot. And I think that's a bit what we try to do, to transform the traditional area that we have into nice contemporary wines, perhaps also a bit focused on the next generation of wine lovers.
You're bringing something new to the market, right?
I think we try something new to the market, but still within the respect and in the quality that, because Piemonte has excellent quality wine, so we didn't want to make things that don't make sense, but we did want to try to find our own expression of it.
So tell us a little bit about the wines you make. I know you have quite extensive lineup, so maybe you can summarize it a little bit for us.
Okay. I think, indeed, we have around 15 labels, so having all of them is a bit too much. For me, it's also something because with my design background, I create also the labels myself. So a wine doesn't just start from a technical idea. It also starts with a story, a mood, the atmosphere that we want to express. So that for me comes together in the whole story. Sometimes for a wine, the inspiration comes just with a feeling that we want to give to people. Or sometimes it's really like, the character of the soil that we want to express with the wine. So perhaps I bundle a bit around those autochthonous grapes. And in white, for me, the most important grape that we have in white, Cortese, we work with. And we make 3 different types of Cortese. So we use it in a spumante, so the Metodo Classico, which I explained already a bit. We make a stainless steel version, and then we make a barrel-aged version. So the Metodo Classico, that is our La Pricca. And actually, that's the historical name of the vineyard where we have that Cortese and that Pinot Nero planted that we use for that sparkling wine. And if you would translate the name La Pricca into English, it would be something like a soft rolling landscape, like soft hills, just like the lush hair of a woman. And let's now all think about those Italian donnas in the 50s and in the 60s with that nice haircut. So that's actually, for me, that was such a nice name for that area. So he said, okay, we need to name the spumante like that. So also on the bottle, you find a nice lady with a lot of hair, a nice haircut.
This is something that stands out in your work because you design the labels and the names are also very Piemontese, right? So you are respecting the tradition and the terroir and also working your creativity. It's quite unique.
Yeah, we try indeed. Where it's possible, we try to use a Piemontese name for our wines because, as we said before, creativity, yes, of course, that's important. But I also think that you should not neglect the beauty that we have in the area because there's a reason why we came to that area. That's why we try to integrate the whole. Also, for example, then if I continue with the Cortese, the stainless steel version that we make, we named it Piazzi in Silenzi, which you would translate into enjoy in silence. Which the idea for that wine was, we all know that day where at the end of the day, you're just like, just leave me for 1/2 an hour, relax in silence with my glass of white wine. And then afterwards, I'll continue with the hassle of the household and everything. But just 1/2 an hour, I just want to relax. That was actually the feeling we wanted to...
time, right?
Yeah. So the feeling we wanted to give with that with that wine. So the names are sometimes just giving you a feeling of relaxation. And then the barrel-aged Cortese, which for me is actually a quite unique wine that we make. So we will first do a short skin maceration for 2 nights so that we get more aromas, more texture out of the wine. Of course, that also means that you get more intensity in color. We will then, for 7 months, put the wine in French oak barrels and also acacia barrels. Acacia gives a bit of honey notes to it. And due to that intensity, the intense wine that you get, we call this wine l'oro in bocca, or gold in the mouth, which of course refers to the fullness, the texture of the wine, the nice golden color that it has. And of course, wine is always a bit gold.
I remember this wine is special. This is a very good wine, yeah.
Thank you. So I think that's a bit the story about how we come to the names and philosophy about the autochthonous Cortese. In red, of course, I think, we have to talk a bit about Barbera because we are in the Barbera-Asti area, so that's central for a winery like ours. We make actually 4 expressions of the Barbera and actually a 5th one because we also make a vermouth out of it. So that might also be a fun thing to know.
You are a true Piemontese.
Yeah, we make a vermouth rosso di Torino and vermouth bianco di Torino because, I think it really finishes off actually the Piemontese accent that we have to. Yeah. For the Barbera, so actually fun thing, since last harvest, we also make a rosato, so a rosé out of the Barbera, which is fresh, fruity, playful, fun, also intense in color. And this one we named Ciao Sole, Hello Sunshine. So just to reflect the fun of a rosé. For me, a rosé has to be a fun thing to drink. You don't have to write hours about it. It's just fun to drink. Of course, then the more serious work is the really Barbera d'Asti. So we make a classical version only on stainless steel tanks. That's our Pian di Ros. You would translate it to Earth of the Roses. That's also a historical name of the vineyard. And the name originates in the fact that it's full of poppy flowers, which is actually a type of a rose. So it's a red sea, and then you have those green vines on top of it. Very beautiful, especially when you visit the area May, June. It's wonderful. And then, of course, you have the Barbera d'Asti Superiore, which we will barrel age for a year in French barrique. And this one is our Sotto la Luna, under the moon. I think the moon has a lot of impact on the wine industry. A lot of people still follow the way the moon stands to do certain things. And I think that just refers to a very nice tradition that wine isn't just about to drink, but it's also about the culture behind it.
This region is where Barbera really shines. And this Superiore is the Tinella you mentioned?
Well, so we have a Superiore, and then we also make a Tinella. Tinella is actually a subzone, so we make just the Sotto la Luna is the classical Barbera d'Asti Superiore. The Tinella, which is actually a subzone from the Barbera d'Asti. So you really have to have a vineyard on which it's allowed to make the Tinella. It means that you have to be even stricter on the green harvest because it really has very low yields. Also for the Tinella, you really need a very long aging. So what we did was 2 years in French barriques. So you have a very complex, full-bodied, layered wine. And then you also need to do at least 6 months of bottle aging. And otherwise you cannot make a Tinella. For what I know, we are quite unique because I only know 2 other producers who are making it.
Wow.
Another subzone which is more known is the Nizza, for example. But we are in the area of the Tinella. So we said, okay, let's do it. Let's try to, let's face the challenge of the...
Yeah, I haven't tasted this one. Now I'm curious. And how many bottles of this?
Of this we make, it's really limited because also the vineyard that we have is quite limited that we can do. We make around 4,000 bottles of this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Good.
So it's a very personal project, let's say. But yeah, I love it. And I think if we are speaking about grapes, yeah, it's a grape I think indeed you like. It's the Freisa also that we need to mention. So Freisa is a fairly unknown grape. It's a typical grape from the area. It has 85% same DNA as the Nebbiolo. And now we are on a more known territory, I think, for most people. So it's actually one of the ancestors of the Nebbiolo. So which means that it has a lot of structure, some nice rich tannins. For me, it really is a robust grape. So you can make a very nice structured wine out of it. And that's also why we immediately went for a Freisa d'Asti Superiore. So 2 years in large barrels, so the big ones, 20 or 30 hectoliters we are using for that one. And in the name, we really want to mention the fact that it was a nice surprise to work with that grape. So we named that wine Cadeau de la Terra, gift from the earth, because you have that earthly flavor really into the wine. But it's such a gift and such an honor that we can work with that wine. So the soil gives us such a nice expression. Yeah, it's very nice.
No, that's a beautiful wine. And just sharing with the audience, in our club, we curate some dinners, private dinners with our members. So last November, we did an event with 12 wines from Piemonte, showcasing different grapes. Bring the food with the wines, and we did in Miami, Orlando, and New York. And we put Anna's Freisa there, Cadeau de la Terra. After the dinners, we offered to the members the opportunity to buy the wines, right? So it did really well. It was the second most wine in terms of sales. It's interesting because this club, we don't talk to professionals. All the members are wine lovers. They are end consumers, and they are giving us the space to show hidden gems from Italy and other native grapes, right? And so out of 12 Piemontese wines, including Arnese, Timorasso, Erbaluce, Bollicini, and other Nebbiolo expressions, Freisa did really well. Congratulations.
Such a pleasure to hear because, yeah, it's always nice to hear that your wines are appreciated, of course, and especially also by the end consumers, because in the end, those are the people who need to drink the wine. So yeah, and thank you
exactly.
that you took.
This is
happy that you took
this
the
is
wine.
not a commercial event. You didn't pay us to do that. I mean, we bought the wines and we decide, right, the wines that we're going to serve. So the results are unknown, right? We are testing the wines with the end consumer. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. So yeah, thank you for that.
I remember also you had a blend you mentioned earlier. What was the blend that you have with for grape?
Well, so the blend, so we already spoke about Barbera, that's one. Then Freisa, which are two autochthonous grapes. And then we also add Pinot Nero and Merlot, so two international grapes. So we will vinify them separately. They will also do their barrel aging separately. And then in the end, we are blending them together to make a very nice, balanced wine, which has structure, but still remained nicely elegant. And this one has a bit of a fun name for me. It's Favor del Demone. It's the devil's favorite, the devil's choice. We spoke already about our name, IDivini. IDivini, of course, if you would see it as an Italian, you would also see it as divine, divinity. So we said, okay, if we have some divinity in our name, we need to balance it out with a small devil. So that's why we said this wine is our small demon. And why? Because if the devil has to choose between grapes, he cannot. He will take everything. He's gluttonous. He wants to have them all. And at the moment that we started with this project, those were the four grapes. So Barbera, Freisa, Pinot Nero, and Merlot were the four red grapes that we had planted in our winery. Nebbiolo just came later. So that's a bit of story about the blend.
Nice, and that's a quite unique blend. I haven't seen it anywhere. That's nice.
No, it really is. And that's also one of the things that really a combination that we wanted to work with the grapes that we had on the field and make a nice blend out of it. It was, I think, the wine that took the longest to develop, to look for the right proportions, the right time, because every wine separately needed to be good, and then afterwards we blend it. So of course, like for example, a Pinot Nero goes faster than the Freisa, so you have to, with one wine you have to wait. So every year it's still a process that we take very seriously, but yeah, of course that makes it exciting. So yeah, we really love it.
Yeah, finding the balance in the blends is very difficult, because I imagine you had hundreds of combinations.
Oh, yeah. And then even every year it starts all over again, because it's not because you took a certain percentage in the first year that in the second year it will be the same, because sometimes the expression of a grape, like for example the Barbera, can be a bit higher on its acidity in one year. So then you need to compensate it perhaps with some other grapes like a Freisa who has lesser acidity, a bit more of the Freisa in the other year. So you need to play every year. Again, we sit around the table and we try to find the right balance for the blend from that year.
Amazing. You know that our audience can be a little geeky, so if you want to share a bit more information about soil, climate in your region, we love it.
Good. I'll do my best for the geeky questions. So our soils in Isola d'Asti are mainly calcareous clay. We have some sandy areas, depending a bit on the vineyard. The limestone that we have helps to preserve the freshness and the tension, while the clay brings structure and depth. And we see that combination, especially with the Barbera and the Freisa. For those grapes, that's really important. We also have a very strong day and night temperature difference, which especially close to the harvest is very present. So we have those very nice warm days, so they help ripening the grapes, while the cool nights preserve actually more the acidity and the aromatics of the grapes. Especially for the Cortese and the Nebbiolo, we see that is really, really important. We are in a nice hillside area, so we have the possibility for good air circulation. Of course, that helps to keep your vineyards healthy. If wind passes through, you don't get a lot of trouble with mold, etc. So that also makes it easier to work sustainable in your vineyard and have low intervention, which I think nowadays is more and more important. Then when we would go to the cellar, I think an important thing for us is that we will vinify parcel by parcel whenever it's possible. So we really take those vineyards separately, especially in the beginning of the process. We will, of course, do temperature controlled fermentation. We will use natural yeast to the process, and Normally, we always do also a malolactic conversion of our wines. The skin contact for the red wines, of course, we will try to keep it nice and long to get nice complexity into the wines. But for example, with the Cortese, we do a 2-night skin contact just to extract a bit more aromas. And then, of course, we will see a bit about which wine we want to achieve in the red wines. What is the end result? There we will play a bit more with the intensity or not. In the aging process, we really believe in the French oak. So also the big barrels and small barrels are French oak, except for then again in the white wine, we use a bit of acacia wine to put that finishing touch into it. So.
And you mentioned the natural yeast, the harvest and the winds and stuff. So what about the sustainability practice? Do you have any control there? How do you do the sustainability?
It's nice that you asked because that was quite a project. Because when we started the winery, the former owner, he worked traditional. So the vineyards were managed traditional. So with the spraying and everything like it has been for years. And we changed it up. And since 2023, because you just can't do the conversion in 1 year, so it takes quite a while. We have now a sustainability label as well, which I'm actually quite proud of that we achieved it, because I think right now sustainability is just important. It's the wines come from the soil, so the less intervention you do, the better. So we let the grasses that grow, the flowers that grow into the vineyards, we let them. So if you visit our vineyards, they are green. They're not just that moon landscape without having anything growing in between them. I personally also like it. It feels more like nature. But I think it's also a win-win situation for nature, but also for us as wine producers.
And the certification, Anna, is what, the bio one?
No, it's actually, so we have the SQNPI certification, which is actually a newer way of certifying wines. Bio was one of the first philosophies to go after the traditional, but then later on came the sustainability label like the one that we have, where bio only looks to the vineyards. So as a bio, you have to really look how you treat your vineyards, but nobody asks questions about the winemaking process, about how also you work with your staff, etc. And that is a step that I think that those sustainability labels, they take a second step. So they don't only look at vineyards, they also look at how, so you get extra quality checks on how you work in your winery. They also look at how you treat your people, your staff. And then I'm not only talking about those people who are working the whole year, fixed staff, but also the temporary people who work for you. Especially because most of the people, I think most of the people hire temporary staff. And for me, it's also important that also those people get treated well. So when they work for us, we know that they have a good salary, so the salary is correct, that they are insured in case anything happens. And if needed, they also should also get the training that they have. And I think that's a responsibility that you take on as an entrepreneur. That's important. Also within the sustainability, we need to become more and more sustainable every year. So things that you can put in mind are solar panels or recuperation of water, etc. But also smaller things like we changed from normal corks to sugarcane corks because they have a zero carbon foot imprint. So all those things are part of it. And I think for me, the sustainability is a nice 360 of how in these times you should be as an entrepreneur.
Amazing. All these details add up and becoming relevant in the big picture, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So we are reaching our end. I have only 2 questions to you. Mm-hmm. So about the visits, can people pay you a visit and taste the wines? How are you structured there to receive everybody? How do you see this portion of the incoming experiences with the guests?
I really love that. We did it from the beginning. In the beginning, it was very small because we didn't have a lot of space, but now we have a nice tasting area. So it became also more professional. But what I especially like about the visits is that you can show what you do. And we really focus on the craftsmanship, on the work behind the bottle. When I go and visit something in another butcher or something like that, or somebody who makes bread, I want to see how they do it. And that's actually what I try to do. We really go for 1 hour with people in the cellar. If we are bottling that day, they can even be part of the bottling line. So we really try to show people how you go from a grape to that bottle of wine in a very practical way. And I see that people have so many questions, and we do a lot of one-on-ones, even with couples, just one couple coming and visiting. It's really nice. And then afterwards, of course, we taste them. We take the time to taste the wines. And then, of course, that's my moment to tell about the names of the wines and the storytelling behind it. And so it's very fun to get in touch with that end consumer. And I always like it when people leave and say, yeah, we visited quite a lot of wineries, but we learned something today. We take something home with us. And we got a lot of respect of what winemakers in general do. So that's what I really like about the visits.
I know, I agree. When you learn about it, you see how much work is in every bottle is amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, indeed.
So tell us, where do you sell your wines?
Well, of course, in Italy, and we mainly sell to restaurants there in our region or directly on the winery. And then, of course, logically, Belgium was our first export market. But we are already now expanding into several European countries. And we're also taking our first steps outside of Europe. That's quite exciting, I think. So from the beginning, we said we prefer to grow steadily with partners who understand our vision and who understand the identity of our wine. So slowly, we are growing and coming out and showing more and more our wine. So that's also an exciting phase in the story of our winery.
No, congratulations. Amazing. I'm sure when people discover your wines, they will be regular customers.
Great.
So, Anna, we are finishing our conversation. It was a pleasure talking to you, and congratulations to you, to Con, on the work you've done. I think that if you look 5 years ago where you guys were and what you are now, where you are now, it's an amazing accomplishment. Being in a different country, you know, with a different culture, doing a changing career and actually doing it well, you know, succeeding. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to have met you both, to have tasted your wines, and hope to see you around. Are you going to any events in the future, like Vivi or Vinitaly?
We are now planning in 2 weeks to be at Pro Wine in Düsseldorf, and then we will be in Vinitaly. Those are still on the agenda, so people can come and visit our small stand in the Piemonte pavilion.
Okay, amazing. Any closing comments you want to make?
I think if there are women who are willing to go for the wine industry, don't hesitate, just do. And I think follow your heart and try to make a wine that is very close to you. And in our case, it's about storytelling, creativity, emotion. And if you just want to see what we are doing, come and visit our winery, I would say.
Perfect. You are an inspiration to a lot of women out there, I'm sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was such a lovely interview. And Anna, you are now literally one of my inspiration as a woman. You are in the book, so thank you so much. Really, it was wonderful.
Thank you very much.
How you doing, guys?
So it was a good way to celebrate the International Women's Day.
Isn't it? It was perfect. Thank you so much again, guys, for spending time with us. To wrap things up, for those who are interested to participate, just send us a DM through our Instagram or mail our Italian Wine Podcast producer at info@italianwinepodcast.com. Thank you so much again, Mauricio and Anna, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. This is a wrap from Italian Wine Podcast. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.